Hey y'all, it is November the 22nd, 2019. Y'all were straight chilling. We got here a little bit late, a little bit later than I wanted to. But I sat here in wait, if you will, um, pondering the different various topics that we could talk about tonight. Um, Seeing what was the most important. Definitely trying to keep it simple. Right now we're looking at Band.video. Um, Not for any real reason. Uh, just because I kind of like to check it out sometimes. See what they're talking about. See, is it okay to be white? I don't know. We're going to probably get down to the bottom of that. In fact, we have a particular story that we're going to touch upon. We're going to touch base on later on tonight that discusses whether or not it is okay to be white. Supreme Court deals Second Amendment a mortal wound. Just different various news topics scrolling by here on Band.video. We have our own news topics that I think we're going to cover tonight. There's four that I'm looking at right now that we got to tackle. It's going to be imperative. Of course, there is the chance that we'll get some stragglers. All right. That does happen from time to time. And when they come in, typically I can expect profound input from them, as you might have seen on previous broadcasts. Right now, I'm just diddling around. Of course, if you want to skip to the more, like if this is a recording and you're watching this later, and you want to skip to more important stuff, we're just diddling around. But if you wanted to do that, I would just skip ahead a few minutes, all right? We're giving people time to settle in, maybe to get wind of this broadcast. I don't know how they hear about it, but Lord knows they hear about it after a while. They stumble in. Who knows what they were doing before they got here, but they dropped it, whatever it was, and I appreciate that. All right. So right now we're just diddling around. I wonder if I could put my face on the broadcast. I'm not really gonna try. My hair's all messed up. I wasn't quite prepared for it. But later on I am gonna comb my hair and look presentable and see if I can't get on the screen. I know a lot of people would want to make sure that it's me, and it is. It is, but that could compromise our stream right now. All right. We're working on our technology and we have some technological difficulties. All right. Um, Anyways, all right. See, this is what I plan to do. I've been real lazy. All right. I have to let everybody know. I don't know if it's lazy. I've been in a recharge mode. I haven't been judging myself over it, but very relaxed. All right. Kind of recharging. It's a winter time. Sunlight's all messed up. I'm trying to restructure. All right. What we're going to do here is a live broadcast. We did one actually this past Wednesday in which we took time to talk about a very special young lady, and we're going to talk about her later on in this broadcast. I'm not sure. We might save that for the end. Miss Arabella Parker, and we do have updates on her, several different updates on Arabella Parker. Anyways, we had a broadcast on Wednesday, and that went ahead and deleted it for various reasons. That I had Alex Jones on it. Lord knows I get banned and stuff like that. Y'all know how it is. I see there's two people up in the room watching. Let yourself be noticed. We got Unwrapped by Branda, a legendary co-host at that, and so we're gonna definitely be depending on her for her navigational skills and being the co-pilot of this here broadcast, probably. All right, so of course that's what we're gonna be dependent on. All right, um, just want to let it be known. But we do have some stories that in particular I want to go through. Over the past few days, going on Google and having them spoon feed me the news hasn't been very lucrative. All right, I got to admit, it hasn't been very tantalizing as it is at times. Hey, and also let us know if y'all can hear any of this or if it's buffering or, the usual stuff like if it's acting nuts, if you can't barely understand the words that is coming out of my mouth, then just let me know in the comments and then I'll uh, quit my whole life. All right. Or just take a second. I don't know. Sometimes technology takes a second to catch up. Y'all, we're not going to spend too much time right here on Bandai Video, but I like to bring it up. Is it okay to be white? We're going to talk about that sort of stuff a little bit later on. There's different other things like, look at this. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. It doesn't take Alex Jones to say that, all right? Everybody and their mama is saying that at this point. It's quite obvious. Everybody's getting down to the bottom of it and investigating, and people are actually doing like tests and weird stuff to figure out is it even possible for anybody to pull that off, to include Houdini. All right, what Jeffrey Epstein supposedly did to himself. And I also heard, I just heard, it's hearsay, that there's a attorney general named by the name of Barr, and he went ahead and said, oh yeah, of course Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. I think he did that today or yesterday or something like that. Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, I bet you he did. All right, see, we're not dumb. Anyways, it's a Roger Stone trial, and a lot of people have a lot to say about that. For sure, there's a lot of political, mischievous things going on. There's Alex Jones, and he's in an armored truck. All right, ladies flipping him off and flipping off the American flag. All right, she doesn't give a damn. All right, that's kind of stuff. Um, that's kind of stuff I don't. I like to see, but I don't like to see. Anyways, we got some stories, you guys. Now we're going to dive into the real nitty gritty. We were just messing around for this whole entire time. All right, until now. I want to go ahead and start. I wasn't sure what exact order to start with, but we might as well go ahead and start with, that's right, Parkland. All right, a crowd favorite. A lot of people still got their eyes on it. And it's not even our fault either, because not only is it very curious of a case, but also headlines all the time, continuously, for 20, 21, 22 months strong. I don't even know how long it's been, all right? But headlines after headlines. Of course, we got breaking news, all right? And this is where you're going to find the breaking news, huh? I mean, I don't know how many people out there is doing this breaking Parkland news and really covering it besides me and Google. Google loves to tell me about it. All right, so I found out all about this. Breaking news, if you haven't heard. Some things that we got to discuss. All right. Thing is, before we look at these particular headlines, all right, which are bizarre at times, before we look into these particular headlines, I want to mention that I had a theory, and I still do, and my theory hasn't really wavered or changed. I'm an open-minded individual, but however, the theory seems to just be, I don't know, substantiated, kind of like reaffirmed over and over constantly. All right. Now, there's other people out there, and they probably have these other theories that differ from mine. And these headlines, maybe they kind of reaffirm their theory as well. I'm not um, mistaking that. Like, I'm not forgetting that at all. All right, that could be the case. It was this all sort of factors still up in the air. But as for Parkland, it just goes ahead and reaffirms my theory. My theories was, all right, there's all sort of collusion going on. There's hoaxery, tomfoolery. It's halfway. It's really a morbid mixture. All right, this kind of stuff gets you deleted from YouTube. Thing is, it's kind of a halfway mix up of all sort of smoke and mirrors, plus people getting killed and shot. All right, by people who, by any means necessary, want all your rights, and later on they'll pop up on the news and be like, "Oh, we need to take all y'all rights." It's the same people, all right. And in this situation involving, I don't know, dozens to hundreds of witnesses, in this chaotic situation in which all sort of things don't add up anyways. I mean, people hearing gunshots all over campus. Some people not hearing gunshots at all. Weird smoke bombs and stuff. Mass, gas mask, this and that. And people got pistols. People got rifles and stuff like that. It's very confusing, right? I forgot what we were even talking about, but okay, they're trying to make a perfect storm of chaos. That's what they did. And they did so immaculately by design, and it's easy to tell. They made it to where everybody was going to be confused. Specifically, who's they? I don't know. You would imagine some people in faculty, but I would imagine that most people in faculty at Marjory Stoneman Douglas has zero clue what's going on. Not one clue. And they were made to be confused for that specific purpose. All right, the theory just keeps getting proven. Like that kind of evidence has already come to light, right? And as time goes on, the theory evolves. It's like, okay, some people do know what's going on. It's on a very need to know basis. Only the people who need to know what's going on, right? So most people don't. But most people are very easily molded and manipulated. And if you have any sort of skill at that at all, you can manipulate these people into doing dumb things, and I'm talking about the faculty, the staff of faculty of any public school that you can even possibly think of, and private school, probably all sort of different schools. Most of them probably are ran by people who are easily manipulated. And all you got to do is throw this and that protocol, and it doesn't even have to make sense. Whatever, you're running game on them. Running game on, and then maybe certain people in certain media outlets, maybe they know, or maybe they're just part of the program. They're just here to spoon feed people news and stuff like that. They're told what should be popular. They're told these Parkland students should be popular, even though they're the most unpopular people I've ever seen in my entire life. All right, and they keep pushing it. Maybe they don't even know better, and it doesn't matter if they don't know better. They're the fake news. We already discovered that a long, long time ago. All right, so perhaps some of them could be colluding. I don't know who's to say. And then you get to people, for example, like the public defense attorneys for Nicholas Cruz. All right, we're looking at all the evidence. I mean, we're talking about the evidence that they've given us. All right, which is not to say very much. I mean, we could love to have more evidence, I'm sure. All right. But they give us just this little tiny spoonfuls of evidence, and we gobble them up and we chew them up and we spit them out because they're stupid. We realize each and every time that they're dumb and they don't add up. And everybody's contradicting themselves. There's nothing but extreme chaos by design. All right. Um, so you wonder, okay, what's going on with if everything's fake, okay, and everybody's hoaxing and everybody's like acting and colluding? Oh, what is the court also colluding? It's like, are they actors as well? And the thing is, we've covered it on this channel, and I'm sure y'all covered it out there. It seems very real. They're treating it like a real situation. It seems like Nicholas Cruz is really up in county jail, and he'll be so for however long until his trial finally does come. And now we're going to talk about that a little bit. His trial. See, part of my theory was, okay, you got a defense attorney, all right, and maybe Howard Finkelstein really knows what's going on, but the other attorneys, they're desperate, right? Like they're thirsty for money and some sort of power influence and stuff. Like that's what they fiend off of. And so they're doing that whole thing and stuff. They might be covering up. They might not know what the hell they're doing. But inevitably, what they're trying to do is skirt justice, all right? And they've been doing so for a while. We're just going to take another look at it. It's breaking news. They're trying to skirt justice. See, the thing is, they would love to have a not death penalty trial. They made that abundantly clear. All right, for the people who've been following this whole story, they've been wanting a not death penalty trial, meaning no evidence, blah blah blah. They're just gonna roll right through it. It doesn't matter. Lock up Nicholas Cruz in jail forever without the possibility of ever hearing a word from him ever again. All right. That's what they wanted. They've always wanted that. So they've always wanted to throw Nicholas Cruz under the bus. They've always been saying guilty for him. And then the news comes out and says, oh, yeah, Nicholas Cruz is guilty. Everybody knows it. All right. So they've wanted to do the easy thing. The thing is, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the prosecutors, they want to go after a death penalty trial. And long story short, what that includes is a whole bunch of evidence, a whole bunch of it, and all sort of witnesses, all right? But you and I already understand because we've been through the evidence. Okay, if they bring out all sort of witnesses and all sort of evidence, it's all going to be gobbledygook and it's all going to fall down flat, all right? It's stupid and it's all contradictory. And we'll be able to throw holes through it with the greatest of ease, with so much ease, and we're going to laugh about it just like we're laughing about Jeffrey Epstein right now. And the fact is that anybody thinks that he could have took his own life. Uh, See, we're already laughing about that, and that's actually tragic because it's in our face. It's in our face lawlessness, and that's what's being established. And I gotta just, that's the thing about it. Looking back through recent history, I want to interject that, the illusion of upheld laws that are being upheld, the illusion is actually very beneficial. It causes society to not break down to the extremes, to at exponential rates. The illusion of it, all right? And we know that there's been all sort of crime, corruption since day one in America, all right? We already know that. It's not news to us. We're just saying, we need the illusion that the law is being upheld, and we're already starting to see it in many different various ways how it's not. Now, all that being said, the recent breaking articles, as you can see, the headline right here from off of CBS Miami is judge presiding over accused Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz case will not recuse herself. And I had no idea what the heck they were even talking about. All right. But of course, they're bound to throw us curveballs here and there. And so sometimes, you wake up and you see some stuff and you're like, what the heck's going on? All right. And I had to check up on it. But when I did, I realized there's just pretty much feeding back into my theory of the defense attorneys really trying to do as little as possible and throw a wrench in this whole system, all right? Because they don't want a death penalty trial. The prosecutors claim that they really, really do want one, all right? So that is like nails on a chalkboard for the defense attorneys who really just want to get out of Dodge right now. To be honest, when you look at some of these attorneys, it's like, dude, they just want to get out of Dodge. It's not even that they're like some evil geniuses plotting this and that. It's just that they know that they're between a rock and a hard place, and they're trying to throw Nicholas Cruz under the bus. All right. So, judge presiding over accused Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz in the case will not recuse herself, and it makes you ask, well, why would she recuse herself? What would she recuse herself for? Okay, Broward Circuit Judge Elizabeth Shearer denied the public defender's motion to disqualify her from the proceedings. What is that? Public defenders for confessed Parkland shooter, a school shooter, confessed one, the definitely guilty one, Nicholas Cruz, had claimed that she had an inappropriate meeting with prosecutors. So this claim is being thrown around. Really? Is that the case? All right. The Broward State Attorney's Office says there was no conversation between prosecutors and the judge outside of the courtroom proceedings. All right. So a very simple situation. The defenders were claiming that the prosecutors and the judge had some sort of secret meeting behind the scenes. They said, no, we didn't. All right. It's the case of he said, she said. All right. Claims were made. The claims were denied, and that's what happened. Judge Shearer is pushing for the trial to begin in late January this next year. Cruz's attorneys have been told that the judge may not be ready for the judge. They have told the judge that they may not be ready for the scheduled start of the trial in January. Just as I predicted, and it's all part of my theory of them trying to like push the can down the road, them trying to do whatever it takes to not, whatever it takes to not go to this death penalty trial, because then all sort of evidence is going to be presented, and that's the very last thing that they would want. Trying to push the can down the road, hoping tomorrow never comes, right? And that's what they're doing. And it's a mirror image. It's the same exact thing as Jeffrey Epstein, right? And which would be the same thing as Ed Buck, which would be the same thing, and the list goes on and on. All right, it's what we're looking at is the same exact thing. All right, and so they're going for broke. There's nothing that they can do. We already got their number. We figured it out. This stuff doesn't add up. Either way, it looks like satanic rituals. As far as y'all school drills and y'all shooting them up in the media, drumming it up, and y'all they're gonna keep drumming it up, and we already see through it. That's the thing with it. So this judge, what I would argue is that it's actually very real. Shout out to the 3 people up in the room. Let yourself be known and stuff. We wanted to cover this Parkland thing and knock it out a little bit. We got just a little bit of time. I would say until probably about maybe around 10 o'clock is what we got. So we got a little bit of time, and I did want to discuss this Parkland thing, this breaking news, all right? Anyways, okay, so this is my theory. Everything that's happening in the courtroom is real, all right? The defense attorneys really are trying to get away and cover up stuff, all right, and just trying to get away. The prosecutors, it's hard to say why they want the death penalty case. Obviously, on the face of things, yeah, they would want a death penalty case just for like public opinion, just to look good in public. They would want to go for the death penalty case. You could argue that the prosecutors, perhaps they know that nothing adds up in this case. Right? What if, like, behind the scenes, whatever, they knew that everything about this case was wrong? It was all handled completely wrong, and it was done so by design. What if they figured that out? But they can't even talk about it. They just want to present it in court and have it all come out then. I really doubt that that's the case, to be honest with you. But the thing is, okay, any prosecutor, because we're amateurs, right? We don't get paid for what we do out here, but we investigate, and we're pretty good at it. Any prosecutor looking into this situation, it would be like, what the hell is going on here? All right, this is like, you'd have to be Mr. Magoo in order in order to be prosecuting this. You'd have to be Mr. Magoo in order to figure out a way to not see that none of this adds up anyways, right? So it is wild. It makes you wonder what exactly is going on, but at the same time, we kind of know what's going on, right? And I gotta say, as far as Judge Elizabeth Scherer goes, she's been impressive this whole time, this complete whole time, in every single way that I can think of. Just like there's no way that I can think of that she's not impressive. Right? I bet you that her breath smells great all the time. That's how impressive this lady is. I'm pretty sure of it. And she's been standing in it. And ironically, in this whole situation, or maybe not ironically, that is kind of how it was set up, as far as the judiciary. But ironically, Elizabeth Scherer is the only person taking up for Nikolas Cruz, and has been the only person, legally speaking, taking up for Nikolas Cruz this entire time. Nobody is on the side of Nikolas Cruz like Elizabeth Scherer as far as actually having due process. And, maybe a close second would be the prosecutors themselves. It's amazing how the prosecutors and the judge are basically Nikolas Cruz's best friends right now. All right? They might not even know it. I'm pretty sure they don't know it. All right? But I wanted to take a look at these other headlines right below, because they kind of are dealing with the same thing. Parkland shooting trial could be far off. Now, that was from the Sun Sentinel. We're not going to take time out to read it because it's going to be a little bit too tedious. But I read it a little bit earlier. And basically, long story short, I think it might be Rafael Almeida, our number one all-time favorite. He's talking about that, death penalty trials could take a long, long time to even get to trial. And he's naming off examples and stuff like that. And I would totally agree. And that's one thing that we definitely, if I had to suggest, we definitely had to look at. For sure, we had to look at it. That seems like the number one most appropriate thing to look at. To me, if you were to ask me, I would say, we need to look at this right now. We need to look at it a long, long time ago. All right, and that is the death penalty trials taken a long, long time to even get there. And the reason is because people had to gather all this evidence, like there's an extreme amount of evidence, and for whatever reason, it takes so long. It's the most arduous of processes. It takes years, sometimes almost close to a decade. Sometimes. I mean, but at least a couple years before the person arrested even makes it to trial. Now, what's interesting about death penalty trials, and I just want to talk about that real quick because we don't want to read this article. But the thing is about the death penalty trials is, usually they're pretty obvious, I guess you'd say. Typically, it's kind of obvious that, yeah, people got killed and some heinous stuff happened. There was blood on this guy's hands, and it was just obvious. So we're going to take him to trial, but we want to get all the evidence. We want to gather everything that we can on him just so that you get a clear picture of whether or not we should kill this dude right here. And so that's what happens, right? It's an open and shut case, you would imagine, most of the time. Now, there's been a lot of different cases throughout time that people have talked about and they've debated. They said, oh man, it's not an open and shut case. This didn't happen. In fact, you got an innocent man and he's on death row right now. There have been these cases, obviously, whether or not, they were all true or not true. There have been those cases and appeals made on death row. It's a long, long, arduous process. I would argue to try to make it a little bit faster and stuff, like just to make it. I mean, here's the thing: if you had to outsource for detectives to do detective work, obviously we have the resources for that at this point. You might understand, like, we can get to the bottom of things. Human beings just get to the bottom of things. If they have access, granted access, we'll get down to the nitty gritty like every time. It's really ridiculous. We reverse engineer and we hack our way into things and we figure out what the hell's going on. All right, so anyways, he talks about how it takes a long, long time. And the reason he brings that up is kind of, honestly, it's like a lesser magic, if you will. If y'all have heard of lesser magic, he's like trying to force the situation. Um, Judge Shearer just said she's not going to recuse herself. She does want a January start date. And they're like, oh, but yeah, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen in time. Son Sentinel's like, I don't think it's going to happen in time. I think Judge Shearer's tripping. And, there's no way it's going to happen in time. It's impossible. We can't. It's all sort of people. And there's no reason it should happen in time. So it shouldn't happen in January. They're basically like saying, oh man, I hope it doesn't happen in January. I hope it doesn't. Yeah, I hope it doesn't. Speaking of absurd little headlines, I couldn't help but come across this. I don't know if you've seen this, but it is kind of what it looks like when it says a trumpet partially made of bullets. Honoring Parkland victims visit Cedar Rapids. All right, I believe that's Michigan, and it has some sort of orchestra, some sort of event, right? And so they busted out a trumpet that's partially made of bullets. I don't know if that's the keys that they made out of the bullets or what have you. I looked at this article a second ago. Now, it's one of those things that's wild, but a lot of people wouldn't understand that it's wild. Like, on his face, some people would look at it and be like, oh, that's a thoughtful gesture. Oh, man, a thing made of bullets that's like making peace around the world. Like, you take the bullets, which are war weapons, and you make it a musical delight and stuff like that. But however, I just wanted to take a moment to think about, like, imagine, if you will. All right, imagine, if you would, Donald Trump sending a present, sending a present to like some sort of Parkland memorial and stuff, and sending them a trumpet made out of bullets. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would definitely be the number one impeachable offense that everybody wouldn't stop talking about. If Donald Trump sent a trumpet made of bullets to the Parkland people, oh man, I can't even imagine what would happen. Right, but judge denies motion to step aside in Nicholas Cruz case. All right, so people copied and pasted it. It is legit. You know what I'm saying? It is what's popping in the hood. Judge denies confessed Parkland shooter request to disqualify herself. All right. after Parkland, blah, 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 about Saugus. People were protesting. Florida Senate votes to remove Judge Broward. Sheriff, now is over a month ago. He's still some hot garbage. I bet you he's still going to run for election. And isn't that amazing? Sheriff Scotty Israel. And then they were talking about this and that. I could have sworn that they had something that I wanted to bring up, but Google, they're always changing their mind about stuff. I want to just talk about Parkland in that sense, all right? That's pretty much what's happening. Like I said, it's all sort of tomfoolery, hoaxery. Some people know. Most of the people don't know. Some people are highly influenced and are dumb as a bag of bricks. They're so sincerely just out of it in zombie land, and they'll do whatever they're told to do, and that accounts for most of the people as far as Parkland. As far as the families of victims and different various politicians that have come out of the mix, they don't know what the hell they're doing, but meanwhile they are kind of facilitating all sort of lawlessness, and that is a problem. And there's all sort of lawlessness going on in different various ways around the nation and the world. All right. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and make a segue into something else. But, I mean, it is kind of in relation to lawlessness. And it's something that we brought up on Wednesday. And it's a case that undoubtedly we're going to follow probably till its bitter end. All right. I don't know how many of y'all were present for on Wednesday when we had a live broadcast, but we went ahead and deleted the broadcast. So most people probably don't even know that we brought up this Colorado daycare, or I might have made a video about it. I don't recall, but if you don't know, there's a case that we're starting to follow, and it proves to be very bizarre. All right, holler if y'all hear me up in the viewing area. You know what I'm saying? If you heard about this, or you're hearing, when we spoke about this, it's some sort of a Colorado daycare. All right, and we've already gone through all sort of videos. If you type in Colorado daycare false wall on YouTube, you get all sort of broadcasts, all sort of news clips saying wild things. All right, and we'll probably release a montage of that. I said we were going to do that, and we haven't done it yet, all right? Because I've been kind of lazy about it, but I'll get around to it. Posting a montage of really just bizarre things going on with this daycare, all right? We're going to cut this story short. We're going to go ahead and get down to the nitty-gritty. They found a daycare. It's, I forget where is it at. Daycare in Colorado, actually in Colorado Springs. And yeah, we got people in Colorado Springs. Right? So we got people around that way, and they said there's a daycare that had a false wall. And I imagine if you ever seen Scooby-Doo, you know what the hell a false wall is. Right? It's to hide a door or a passageway of some sort. And that false wall was to hide. See, the police went up into this daycare. They got complaints about the daycare. They went to make a visit at this daycare, which was a house in a residential neighborhood. When they got there, they didn't find any children in the daycare. There was no children there. And so obviously that would be bizarre, right? You get complaints about a daycare, you're the police, you're going to check on it. There ain't no kids in the daycare, none. Right? And so you start poking around, you start calling the owner, who she ain't answering for nothing. Isn't that suspicious? I mean, you're a daycare runner and stuff, you're not answering the phone. All right, so they're calling her up. She don't answer. They're like, what the heck's going on here? They start poking around. They find a false wall. They find a secret basement. Inside the secret basement is 26 children, all under the age of 3, all of them. All right, 26 children, and they have like 2 people watching them. All right, the identity of these 2 people still ain't been revealed to the public, but 2 people watching 26 children under 3 in a secret basement. It's a wild story, ain't it? It's pretty wild. It would cause you to believe that maybe it's fake news, like maybe they made it up. And here's the thing, I can't tell you that it's not fake news and that it's not made up, but it sounds so real that I can't help but think that it probably is real. And the fact is that so many news outlets are trying to cover up for it just leads me to believe that it is real. That's how kind of you can tell that stuff is real, when the news is deliberately trying to cover up for it what's an obviously outrageous story of epic proportions. When they're trying to cover up for it and kind of trying to de-escalate it and trying to like mitigate the destruction on society, that's how you can kind of tell that it's real. Probably they're bringing it up because they have to, not because they want to, but they're trying to mitigate it as well. All right, so that's exactly what happened. And you see all sort of reports. We don't have time to go through them all, but you can see all sort of reports where they're talking about that it's some sort of licensing issue. Basically, they were saying, well, the problem is that Carla Faith, the lady who runs the daycares and runs all these preschools, different various buildings throughout town, um, the problem is that that lady, she just doesn't like to follow the rules, and so she bent the rules a little bit, and she had too many kids, and that's her biggest crime, is that her heart was too big, and she's a little bit confused and stuff like that, and she just had too many kids because her license for that particular residence that the police found a secret basement in, there was only a license to take care of 6 children, right? And so she shouldn't have had 26 children instead of 6 in that house, and she also shouldn't have had them in a secret basement, right? In squalor like conditions, which is what turned out to have happened. And we saw people talking about this, about how it's like just disgusting. Like we heard from a lady who went down there, and she said it looked like she wasn't in America when she went down there. That was what her words. She said it didn't look like America. It was something very weird and just amazing going on in the basement, secret basement. All right, so we're gonna be following that. And like I said, there's been different various news articles um, in which they're trying to play it off. They're trying to say, oh, Carla Faith, blah, 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 don't even worry about this. But meanwhile, just to bring it up, and we're going to touch upon it in greater detail at later times, it's a wild situation. You imagine, okay, there's a secret basement. All these children are under the age of 3. This lady is running different various preschool type things, daycares around that city in Colorado. All right. Some of these facilities will be a whole building. It look like a preschool, and it'll be like the best preschool in town. If you factor that in, think, okay, it's like the best preschool in town. Everybody loves it. This building that they have, all right, that's going to take money, all right, some serious money. How did Carla Faith come by this money? Why does Carla Faith sound like a fake name, anyways? All right, how did she come by all this money in order to just be erecting all these preschool and daycare things and facilities, right? Obviously, this is a wild story, all right? So she had enough money to be able to do all these things, and meanwhile, she had a problem following the rules as far as licensing, aka she had 26 toddlers in a basement, a secret basement. All right. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so it has to be wild. She has to be getting funding from someplace, which is going to be a large, it's going to be, there's large money coming to her. Where is it coming from? And what are you going to find? Because we just scratched the surface. We scratched the surface of this, and we found a secret basement with 26 children in it. And I'm talking about toddlers, all under the age of 3. Okay, so it's gonna get much, much more wild, and it will be a sense of lawlessness because for those of y'all out there who might be a little bit farther down this rabbit hole, it kind of reminds you of certainly Jeffrey Epstein, but everybody knows about that. Kind of reminds you of like Ted Gunderson and all that sort of investigative stuff that people were doing kind of back in the day, like late 80s, early 90s and stuff, where they were like, hey, there might be some daycares and they have some like portals that they dig underneath the ground, and they go off to different places and stuff like that. And then it's satanic rituals and this and that. And I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened here. I'm saying it's kind of reminiscent of it, isn't it? The satanic rituals, the tunnels underground stuff, people at daycares, the little children describing, hey, look, this is what they do, a secret tunnel. All right, but you know what? It'd be a perfect crime because if all the children are under the age of 3, they're not exactly going to be believed, are they? See, that's what we're looking at, and it's wild. You know what I'm saying? Like if the news were to come out and say, "Look, this is wild. It's amazing. Carla Faith has been funded by whomever probably knows all about this house with the secret basement. They probably know all about it." Isn't that wild? Isn't that on a Jeffrey Epstein tip? Yeah, it is. And it's right up in anybody's backyard, basically. Colorado Springs. And it could have it right up under your nose and stuff. You could be taking your kids to facilities that, yeah, that facility might be good, but it's ran by someone who has all this time and puts all this energy. They had to put in so much energy into the other schools and other, activities in order to make sure that they have accommodation for a secret basement full of toddlers. All right, that's how much time and attention that they put into it. That's how much money that they have behind these sort of things. All right, I wanted to bring that up. Shout out to the people in the viewing area, and feel free to interject. We got a couple of different other news items that we want to go over. Trying to not go too close to 10 o'clock, so we got about 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, all right? It's a 25-minute warning, but we got a couple of things that I want to discuss. We haven't got to the most important things. Or, yeah, we got through a lot of important things, but I'm going to save the best for last, actually. Something that I want to cover. That's actually going to be a very serious topic, just so that you know. All right, a very sobering topic, and it's one that we discussed at length on Wednesday. That broadcast that got deleted. All right. But before we get into that, I just did want to make a quick reference to this particular couple of news items. Go ahead and Google it in on the fly. I'm not sure which one we want to look up first. Let's go ahead and look up this one. This is a news item that's of an interesting nature. We brought it up, and certainly a lot of people brought it up. But it's one of those news items that, although it's reached across the nation, and some people have probably heard across the world, it's not that popular. Not a lot of people know about this. Not a lot of people have heard about this at all, not even a little bit. All right. It's kind of obscure in a sense. But the nature of it's very interesting because what it is a hate crime hoax, and you're going to see them popping up like damn crab apples all over the place. These hate crime hoaxes, they're literally going to be everywhere, all right? In your neighborhood. They're going to be in your neighborhood, all right? I don't care what neighborhood you live in. Hate crime hoaxes everywhere, all right? Just because they're getting away with them, all right? And it's kind of amazing. We don't have time to go into it too much, but to briefly summarize for those who've been following it, it was a Buffalo Wild Wings situation. Happened in a suburb or something outside of Chicago, Illinois. All right. Supposed racist incident happened. Super racist, where a super racist, white supremacist, a Nazi, a neo-Nazi, up in Buffalo Wild Wings, he made a racist suggestion, or like he asked for something very racist. He asked for a group of black people, 18 strong with children, to move, or he actually asked Buffalo Wild Wings to tell them to move. The reason is because he's racist and they are probably black, right? And so it was a hate crime and whatnot. They said, oh, this is a hate crime. It's going to be, we need to call Jesse Jackson. And they did call Jesse Jackson. I'm not making that up. And he came down and he did his whole thing probably. They had a lawyer, one of those slick talking lawyers, and he's like, oh, this is bad. This is the worst thing in the world. We can't believe it. In 2019, all of these people are being so racist. They got white supremacy and white privilege. All right, they were coming up with that whole spiel. When I first heard of it, the second I heard of it, I knew it was fake. I knew it was completely fake. There's no possible way. I live in America, and I'm here to tell you, it's not even possible. Maybe in some other countries it might be, not here. It's not even possible. I knew this story was completely fake, obviously, from the second I heard it. And so we kept talking about it. We kept saying, hey, this is fake. It's completely fake. And the people keep carrying on, right? And it's just a textbook example of what you're to expect later on when it comes to all these other different hate crime hoaxes. They're all going to go the same exact way. All right, it's a formula. They've tried it, they tested it. They're willing to die by it, right? These people, okay, they came up. They said it's a hate crime. This person was saying that we're black and we needed to move. That didn't happen, right? What happened probably, and it's just a theory because they won't give us no evidence, is that they were asked to move because they were probably unruly. They probably had all sort of children out of control. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you exactly. Maybe the dining room was very big, and they were all kind of crammed together and stuff. They just wanted to move to get a little bit of space. All right, which actually turns out to be what it is because in articles now that it's a couple of weeks old or whatever, now you have articles talking about, oh yeah, there is no hate crime. First of all, there's no hate crime that's been charged. The people who were accused of being these racial haters, they've come out, and kind of behind the scenes. Obviously, they want to put their faces out, and I couldn't blame them for that or their identities. But they've come out and said they didn't say nothing racist, that nothing racist happened that night. In fact, that this is all a fake hoax, right? And it's kind of easily, how this could happen is kind of easily. What if you have like employees, and mind you, there's two employees who wound up getting fired, all right? What if you have them making it up about those customers, saying it under their breath to this table full of black people saying, oh, you need to move because you're black, and that guy's a racist over there. Maybe they were saying that under their breath. Maybe nobody said, there was no conflict between the two tables, all right? And the black people, they heard this. They were like, oh, because we're black, that's why we need to move. And then they all bursted out into tears, dude. Like, I mean, I swear this is what happened. Like, they all started crying and just objecting. They were like, we can't have this. We're going to eat buffalo wings and stuff. We need to celebrate this birthday and stuff. And, like, eventually they wound up leaving and they were in tears and they were on the phones crying to their mamas. And I swear this happened. And so after that, it snowballed, and then they were like, "Oh, this is a hate crime, man. Buffalo Wild Wings needs to pay and stuff." Meanwhile, it's very easy to tell that it's fake the whole time, right? Because there's so many examples, but for example, they took a picture of these people, the supposed people. The only picture we were ever given of these supposed people was the back of some dude's head. All right, I bet you if we go to images, we'll see the back of this guy's head, and that's it. All right. We see the Buffalo Wild Wings location. There you go. See, look at that picture. You see that? We can't make it bigger, but you see that on the top left right there? On the left side, that's the only picture we ever had. All right. Obviously, it's like, dude, this guy, he could be anybody in the world who has white skin, who's got kind of big, broad shoulders, and that's it. All right. Can you imagine a situation where they're not videotaping this guy if he's supposedly calling them black and telling them to move? Of course, they're going to videotape him. They're going to call him all sort of broke down ass crackers and all sort of stuff. They're going to make a big commotion of it, which is what happens every time. So that's how you knew it was fake, is because they're trying to withhold evidence the entire time. It's like, I know you got a video of this guy. Oh, you're just going to release a back of his head photo? Oh, yeah, I recognize that guy. That's the racist guy from over there in Naperville. Yeah, I recognize the back of his head from anywhere. Stuff like that. It was all completely ludicrous. All right. Meanwhile, Buffalo Wild Wings to kind of succumb to the pressure a little bit. I don't know if they're trying to play it off. I don't know if they're going to wind up actually giving money to the people who claim to have been the black people told to move, which is being like perpetrated by the parents. I don't know how to go back. The parents just keep perpetrating and carrying on, And it's kind of nice is the parents themselves involved in the situation, different variations of black folks. They were saying they're saying it's like super racist, right? And they were even saying that their children have never experienced racism in their life, right? And so when this event happened, it kind of traumatized their children. And we're talking about it. Like you can find videos of them talking about it, like all in press conferences. I forgot what we're looking at, but so they're talking about it and they're further re-traumatizing their children off an event that never even happened. All right, they're reliving an event, a hate crime that never even happened. There's no charges filed. We don't even know the identity of these people. Buffalo Wild Wings is claiming to have banned those particular people from all their locations, that couple in particular. Meanwhile, you can't do that. You can't ban them unless their identity is known. You know, you had to give at least your employees the pictures of these people to identify them or their names and stuff like that. It's not possible. But they just said that they did it. And Buffalo Wild Wings is also, they're saying that they're about to have sensitivity training to whatever that even means. They're going to implement some sensitivity training, right? Which is kind of par for the course. Like I said, it's formulaic. And the thing is, I was looking for it, and I don't know if it's going to say but I was looking at an article earlier. Customers at Naperville Buffalo Wild Wings say they were asked to move because of their blackness. Said I was appalled black diners who were asked to move. Blah blah blah. The thing is, I saw an article about it earlier. I might not even be able to find it right now, but I'll assure you it's out there. And it had one of those parents, one of the fathers. He's a beta male, all right? That's just objective. Objectively speaking, he is a beta male. And he's traumatizing his children for no reason. He might want to believe it, but it's all a hoax, all right? He's now going to schools. I bet you I can find it. Wild Wings, Aurora. If I type in Aurora, because he just went to a school, and I'm sure he's going to go on to talk to a number of schools. All right, up there in Aurora, Colorado, talking to them. It's like, you know how veterans and like Holocaust survivors used to come and talk to the children and be like, "Oh man, I survived through this tumultuous time and this and that. We didn't eat for like 3.5 years and stuff like that." And those people would talk to the students. Now they got this guy coming out. He's gonna tell all the children, "Oh, these people didn't want to sit me and next to me at Buffalo Wild Wings or my family because we were black, y'all. This is a black thing, all right? Everybody is oppressed." Anyways, that pretty much sums up what's going on in that situation. He's only going to continue to go through a tangent of schools and speaking arrangements, hyping up something that didn't happen. And after a while, he's going to upset it so much that people are just going to be like, "Oh, yeah, this happened. I know that this happened. I saw the guy. He was speaking about it, how he was traumatized. This definitely happened." No, it didn't. Not at all. But before we go ahead and start to wind down, well, I got a little bit more time left, y'all. And I always wish that there was more time. One of these days there might be more time, all right? But we live in, trying times. Nobody's promised tomorrow. So you don't exactly know what we had to look forward to. We look forward to the possibility of perhaps having another broadcast and stuff. But we definitely, I gotta say, as far as myself, I've thoroughly enjoyed this time that I've had with y'all and stuff, getting down to the nitty gritty. And that being said, I'm gonna take a little bit of time to address the comments, which I haven't seen for a little while and stuff, and see what exactly is popping in the streets. All right, get a real good feel for what the public is saying right now. So, on Rabbi Branda, who's actually a dear co-host of this show, says maybe they just went in with a huge party and sat wherever they wanted, and they were asked to move, and they thought it was because they were black. It could be that simple, and it probably is that simple. You're probably 100% correct. But, just to add nuance, because I've been hearing from like the witnesses and stuff, that's what I think happened. Is like, they came in, there's a big party. The kids were probably a little bit unruly, but maybe they weren't. Maybe these this white folks, maybe they were just annoyed or whatever, but maybe they were all cramped up in the corner or something, and they felt all uncomfortable. And they were like, "Hey man, and they got like a host. They were like, they waved the host over. It's like, "Hey man, could you mind if you just move them a little bit? You kind of place them on top of us, and there's an empty dining room and stuff. If you could just move them over a little bit." And then that host was having a bad day, right? And he's already like having his own problems and blaming them on other people the entire day. And so he hears this, and he's a black person, probably. This is my theory. I don't know if it's true, but of course they're telling us a fake story. So he was like, "Oh man, these guys, I remember these guys, they're regulars and stuff, and I don't think they care for black people. They're always watching hockey games and stuff." And it's like, "Oh, this guy, I know what he means. He's not just asking for space because it make him get some room to breathe. He's saying this because secretly he doesn't like black people." Meanwhile, nothing was ever said about black people. Nothing the entire night by this couple. They never said anything about it at all. And the host is like, "Oh, whatever. I'll go see if I can move these people." And then he goes to try to move the table, right? He's like, "Hey, y'all, can we get y'all to kind of like move? We got a better space for y'all and stuff." And then those people look at him. They're like, "What?" And they get very offended by it. They don't even know why yet. They don't know why they're offended, but they're like, "What? How dare you?" And they're all murmuring to themselves. They're like, "How dare him ask us to move? We should never be made to move ever for any reason." And so they're asking him. They're like, "Why is it that you're making us move? Huh? What's that about?" And he's just like, "Oh, you guys, we got to get you to move and stuff because and stuff." And they're like, "Why? We demand to know." And then he's like, "Because that couple over there, you see him over there?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I think they're racist, and they just want you to move." He said the wrong thing. He was hoping that it would die at that. He was hoping that he would say, "Oh, they're racist, blah, blah, blah. Can we just get y'all to move?" And then the black people would be like, "Oh, we understand. Oh, we get it. We wanted to save your job right now and just move and comply." And he thought that would happen. No, it didn't happen. It blew up in his face. And they were like, "Oh, because we're black. Oh, because we're black." And then they started yelling and stuff and crying and calling their moms on the phone and all sort of stuff, calling corporate, calling all sort of people, calling everybody broke down ass cracker and stuff and just going wild. Right. And that's how this snowballed into this whole. That's my theory. All right. And I have plenty of reason to actually believe that. Plenty of experience to back that up. All right. I've worked in food service. Let me just say that. Unwrapped by Brenda says, "Wow, in such a racist country like the USA, and that's the first time they felt racism, huh?" I know, isn't it the most racist place in the? It's so amazing, and they'll admit to it, and they don't even know what they're admitting to. They're like, "My 11-year-old son has never experienced a day of racism in his life." "Oh, really? Yeah, I've never met anybody from the Klan either." Like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like but and then they go ahead and they traumatize their children over and over. It doesn't even matter. You understand? They'll throw their children under a bus, and meanwhile they'll put their children in their face and say, "Oh, you're gonna be racist against our children? We're not lying. We're not lying to you." All right. So Unwrapped by Brenda says another agenda to separate us. Exactly. And mind you, real briefly, everybody up under the sun, race, color, creed, I see all sort of people, all sort of different shapes and sizes and shades, and they love America, all right? And the thing is, they're tired of being lied to. It's the same people that are tired of being lied to. They love America, so we can unite. That's what's so strong about that American flag, to be honest. There's really nothing strong about it except the way that it unites everybody. And it doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, what you even did in the past, so long as it's just like you have some sort of repentance, maybe for the bad things that you might have done. You have some sort of morals, some sort of principles. You can you go to work? Do you have a work ethic and stuff like that? Do you love America? Do you love not being told what to do with all your money and stuff like that all the time? Just different things like that. It unites us. We start to realize, oh yeah, we do want to live in our own homes. Oh yeah, we do want to protect them with our own guns and stuff like that. We find common ground basically, all right, and then we unite against the people who don't like that. And then they call us all racist and try to get us all divided. And it is that simple. See that white couple over there? You see those white crackers? They're over there and they're being all racist. You heard? And, and if you just move, you could save my job and stuff, please. And then the crowd of folks are like, no, hell no. Screw your job, little boy. We're gonna we're gonna do hate crime hoaxes all over the place, and they might not even know. See that table of parents, they might even be that dumb, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt of being that absolutely plumb bob retarded and traumatizing their own children over an incident that did not happen. All right, and they should have some sense. But we're running out of time. We're winding down. All right, it's a good time to go ahead and end this broadcast. But actually, like I said, I was saving, I guess you would say, the best for last. All right. And it's hard to even call it that. It's hard to say it's the best. All right. Because it's actually very sobering news. Um, Something that I personally want to be very thoughtful. All right. On Wednesday, we discuss, and it's a case, and we're going to discuss it in great detail, probably at different various times. We've done it before as far as Arabella Parker. Some of y'all might not be familiar out there, so it might be new to you. Arabella Parker. It's not exactly well known. It has gone across the nation, across the world and stuff. It's actually been on the Steve Wilkos show. All right, for those people who like Steve Wilkos, I kind of like him. I think I like the guy for the most part. And okay, it's been a big deal, but not such a big deal. Not a lot of people have been talking about it, but it was a girl named Arabella Parker, and she's 3 years old. And I'm here to suggest, just like probably a lot of people out there, that she is abused in every way imaginable. All right, in horrific, nightmarish ways. All right, all with the supervision of her mother. All right, and might as well call it the tacit approval of her mother. All right. And so all that took place for over the course of months at least, right? A little 3-year-old girl. And she wound up having an incident where I guess was beaten to oblivion, choked and thrown up against a wall and this and that. Allegedly, supposedly, beat to the point where, she was just having seizures on the ground. And people watched her do it, to include her mother, for about 45 minutes or so to an hour before they called emergency personnel at that point, they came through, but as you know, time is kind of crucial in those sort of situations when people are having seizures and stuff like that. So you shouldn't really wait 45 minutes, but that is what they did. And so the girl, she was in such trauma, she went into a coma. And she was actually in a coma for over a month, right? This little girl. And everybody presumed that she was not going to live. Oh, let me go ahead and type it in, Arabella Parker. So we were covering that. All right. And on Wednesday, we had a broadcast that I went ahead and I deleted for other various reasons. But we were taking time out to sit and dwell about not only Arabella Parker, but all the untold numbers of children who are living very similar lives to Arabella Parker right now today. It is happening. It's happening in a town near you. It's happening in your town, probably. Right. We were talking about that, and it was a special broadcast, and I felt a special certain kind of feeling on that broadcast because I had an update to share that day, right? Because as of Wednesday, they took her off of life support, and you're already seeing the news as of today. But as of Wednesday, they took her off of the life support. Nobody expected her to be able to breathe. Like it was just pretty much, it was a shot in the dark. They were gonna take her off life support, and there was nobody in that family or the people who knew about that situation who is betting on Arabella Parker to breathe beyond that. All right, just gonna let her go. And through I guess you would say, a miraculous show of events, a true display, an exhibit given by God, she actually did breathe. And she actually lived through that night. We were talking about Wednesday night. She lived. And she was breathing on earth, off of life support, on her own. And that actually carried on for, I don't know if it would be 1.5 days. Was given a reprieve, and it's not. Here's the thing: what I would suggest is Arabella wasn't given a reprieve at that particular time. It was the people. There's the people out there, and there's a lot of people. They were singing songs and stuff in that particular area, holding vigils, and I'm sure there's a lot of people across the nation and across the world, for that matter, who held vigil for this little girl and had prayers for her. For whatever reason, and so they were granted a reprieve. We were, for just that day and a half, basically, something to see that against all odds, this girl shouldn't even. Of course, people were weeping over this girl. She shouldn't even be alive. But God showed us that He could make it happen. That it is possible, I don't know if we were to request it properly, or if we were to focus our energy in ways that He approves of, that it is possible for Him to do that, for Him to make her live against all odds. And then a day and a half later, He went ahead and reprieved her. That's what I would be suggesting, is that Arabella Parker, she didn't stand to live what you and I would call a normal life and stuff like that. There was going to be all sort of obstacles in her way. And I would also suggest that her greatest obstacle would be the lack of a family. Her mother is not around. Honestly, I would suggest that her mother be considered for the death penalty. And I'll debate anybody about it. All right, at great length. I would love to debate you about it. Deserves to be considered for the death penalty. I'm talking about a speedy trial. She deserves all this, and the boyfriend for sure deserves that death penalty trial for sure. All right. Um, the thing is, Arabella didn't stand a chance, not only because, who knows, she might have had brain problems. They had to remove part of her brain and stuff from the surgeries, from the swelling. She might have had that going on. She might not even be able to walk or function correctly. All right. And not only that, when you take a look at her family surroundings, her environment, oh, I know it's hate speech. I know it's hateful and stuff, but I don't hate anybody in the world. I'm saying that this girl didn't have a family. There was nobody to lean on for her. Even the people who were there for her, and I commend them for being there for her, they were no sort of example and would not lead her to success. I mean, they're living a family of complete utter failure, and in different various ways, everybody attached to that family is sinking like the Titanic. They're not. There's nobody going to be tied to that family and is also going to have success in their life. All right, that's kind of how families work. It is a crab in a bucket situation in which they're going to bring you down with them. And that's what I wanted to point out. Is that clearly, dude, like, I don't know, you could debate me on it, but where was a good example of someone for her to go to for sanctuary, to go to for safe haven? Where was there a good example that was not just smothered in drugs? It wasn't out there. So, in this instance, what I would suggest is that God then gave a reprieve to Annabella. And instead of making it so hard on her and giving her the situation of the most epic dire, I mean, I couldn't imagine a worse situation. Instead of having her go through all that for a lifetime, went ahead and just called her home. And I totally believe in that. That's the thing. Some people debate on like whether or not heaven exists and this and that, and then they'll debate on it till the cows come home. Here's the thing about it. I have more than enough proof to believe, yeah, there's something after this. That this is not the end all be all. But not only that, of course, babies go to heaven. All right. If there's, God stands for justice. Even if there was no heaven for anybody else, I wouldn't even care. To be honest, like, so I deserve to go wherever it is that he takes me. The thing is, yeah, there's a heaven, and it's for these little children in particular. It's like, dude, because God believes in justice. It's like we live in a world that would actually allow for, and we're facilitating people to hide amongst our midst who abuse children to this extent. We allow for it. And then when it comes down for us to administer justice, we come up short every time in a ridiculous fashion, right? That's our plight. But meanwhile, God doesn't believe in that. You know what I'm saying? See, heaven exists if not only for the little children, because he's not going to have them grow up in our hell where people don't know if they're girls and boys and stuff. People run around all sort of confused. No, people, they don't have a strong family to lean on typically. All right. And so they come up not knowing up from down. Meanwhile, instead of going through all that with Arabella Parker, he just decided to take her and make an example to show us something, to show us how we could learn, to show us how simple it is, and also take her back because, she doesn't deserve all this kind of BS that she was dealing with down here. She gets a reprieve. All right, so we both kind of, we were both. She was given what she honestly what I would hope for her because I don't know how she would have a good life down here. And it's kind of amazing to think about that. Um, and then we were also shown all sort of stuff. And anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought, y'all. But it is November the 22nd, 2019, and we're gonna be covering all these stories and much more later. God is showing us all sort of things. All right, if we take a time to dwell upon it and pray about it, I think He'll meet us back with results and stuff like that. And I'll holler at y'all a little bit later about it. It's November the 22nd, 2019.